It's Dee on the spot.
Welcome to another edition of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to my guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe below. And I got one more thing also. You might remember a former band that we've had on here called the Marys. I have their t-shirt right here, as everyone can see. It's a very fine t-shirt. I feel fantastic in it. You can find their t-shirts anywhere at their website. I'll leave the links down below. They have different designs, not just this gray one right here. They also have a white one and a black one for all of your needs. I mean, I will leave a link down below, and I definitely recommend this t-shirt. It feels great. So now we have David Sueoka on the show. David, how you doing?
Not too bad, man.
So why don't you give us a little bit more of a background on what got you started into music, what inspires you musically, and what you're up to currently?
Basically raised around like classic rock and stuff like that. Got into metal and stuff like that around high school, and picked up the guitar probably around 13. That was my first instrument, and taught myself for the most part. And then I found out about like death metal, and I started trying to do vocals, and eventually got to a point where I was comfortable enough to front a band. Moist isn't my first band. Been doing this now for like vocals, I guess, for about 10 years. And, me and my buddy John were in a band together before Moist. And we kind of just jokingly came up with the idea, like, well, let's come up with a band name that's ridiculous. And at the time, Moist, was a word that everybody hated. Mm-hmm. And, we just kind of ran with it. He took some time off for a little while. And so it was just me. And then, we went to go do the EP. And we ended up doing it together. I was with a promotions company at that time. So they wanted it done pretty quick. And he was, my first line of contact. And so we pumped that out, I guess, in about a month. And, now here we are. We're working on our full length. So that's where it is now.
So, did you guys find it hard to kind of get fans when you were starting out with a name like Moist? Because, like you said, it was a very unpopular word. It still kind of is. I mean, girls obviously don't like it; they cringe at the sound of it. So, did you find it hard to kind of get an audience when you were starting out?
I mean, yeah, and we still have kind of a hard time because it is kind of a weird genre of music overall. Extreme metal isn't the most popular thing in the world, but at the end of the day, like, people that come out to the shows and stuff definitely enjoy it. So,
yeah. So, when you guys were starting out with Moist, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you guys face, and how did you guys overcome it?
I would say probably like time management and maybe just figuring out what how we're gonna do things, when we're gonna do things, and eventually got to a point where like we just kind of split up the duties, between, because it's just me and another guy. Mm-hmm. And I take care of all the marketing and he takes care of all the financial ends of things. Mm-hmm. His name's John. He does all the guitars and stuff like that. So
yeah,
just kind of divvied it up to where it would be fair, I guess is the best way.
Yeah. So, we love to hear first song stories. What was the first song that you guys released as the band Moist?
So I released Misogynistic Songs Are Easy to Write on my own. That was technically the first song. This is after John didn't want to do it for a little while. And, I was just like, well, I want to, keep doing something with this. And so I did all the guitars and stuff and kind of wrote it as a mockery towards how the genre is and how that you do get a lot of misogynism in metal in general. And I thought it'd be kind of funny, but also, making a point to, make fun of it in a way. And it received decent, decent praise for what it is. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's I guess that's it.
What inspired you to perform in the metal genre? Was it just your influences growing up, or did you kind of decide that it would be the best fit for you? How did that happen?
So the whole metal thing kind of just started. Um, well, I guess like my main influences growing up was like pop and stuff like that, and you know, but then I started listening to hip hop in like middle school, and then like high school came around, and I was exposed to death metal, and it's just kind of got heavier and heavier from there, to a point now that like that's basically all I listen to. I don't really want to pigeonhole myself too much here, but this is kind of what it is now.
Mm-hmm. When you guys are coming up with your lyrics, do you think that you guys explore a wide variety of themes and genres sort of in your songwriting, or do you like to sort of focus on a main set of what you'll be writing about?
I kind of write about whatever I think would be fun to write about, or like if it's cathartic. I write a lot about horror movies and stuff like that. Just kind of, whatever comes to my mind, I'll write about it. And if it sticks, it sticks. Well, then we'll keep it. And if it doesn't, I'll get rid of it. For example, I wrote about Hellraiser on the EP. And, this next album that we're working on, I have a song that's about masturbating with sandpaper.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just kind of whatever, whatever would be either funny or like if it would mean something. I mean, in the past, I've written about like Lovecraftian stuff. So it's just kind of whatever.
What's your favorite horror movie?
I'd say Friday the 13th is up there.
Mm.
The first Halloween.
Yep.
Hellraiser, yeah.
Mm.
I guess both renditions of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much, the classics, the ones that most people bring up.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're thinking about those horror movies, do you reference them like specifically, or would it have to be something where people would kind of have to dig in a little deeper to kind of get the references?
For example, it's kind of direct. We have a song called Deadlights, and that's, about it. And we have a song called Leviathan. Deadlights is kind of direct, for it. And Leviathan's kind of direct for Hellraiser, but lyrically, it's kind of ambiguous to a point where it can still be about something else. But I mean, that's honestly where it came from.
Yeah. When you were starting out, we love to hear first show stories. What was the first live show that you performed with that Moist, and how did it go?
So I mean, our first show honestly wasn't that long ago. This is more of a when we can do a show, we'll do a show kind of project. It went really well. We had about 2-3 months of rehearsal. We hired out for a drummer and a bassist. Unfortunately, the bassist couldn't make it last minute, so we ended up having one of our friends kind of fill in like at last minute. But I mean, we had all the backing tracks, figured out and stuff like that. And the kids really liked it. We did a cover of Break Stuff, and like that's how we closed our set, by Limp Bizkit. And people generally seem to enjoy it. And, I was glad, for that response, considering that, John and I have been working on this basically off and on for the last 3 years. And it was kind of, there's that gratification in seeing that payoff,
Yeah.
People digging our sound, people digging what we're doing, it kind of just makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. So when you guys are starting, you guys are a two-piece band. Did you find any specific difficulties that you wouldn't have had you had more members?
No, not really. It's kind of slim pickings as far as musicians go. It's always kind of hard to find people that are on the same page too. What we're writing now is a little more technical than what a lot of people that we've kind of tried out can handle. And we like to kind of keep it just to us too, because at that point, we just divvy the work, 2 ways. John handles all the mixing, he handles all the tracking, and like I said again, I'm the loud mouth of the band. I do all the marketing, I do all that other stuff. Of course we have we have our affiliations too. We're affiliated with Black Venom Promotions, and we got local guys that support us. We have another local tattoo shop even that we're affiliated with, Dark Horse Tattoo in Fort Wayne. And having those affiliations and having those connections and having those relationships is, how it makes it a little bit easier as well, to where we really don't need the other, two members. Like, yeah, we're going to have guys that we work with consistently as far as shows and stuff like that, because it kind of looks silly if it's just both of us up there. But as far as that goes, we write all the stuff, and, we take care of it all out of our own pockets and stuff like that. So
That's great. So one of the things that I came to realize, because I'm from Minnesota, I'm in the Minneapolis area, and I came to realize that Minneapolis has a huge metal scene down there that I would have never guessed. You're from Fort Wayne, Indiana. You're the second person that we've interviewed from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I forgot who the first person was, but I will probably leave a link down below or say his name right down below in this video. But what would you describe the music scene like in Fort Wayne? What genre really do you think dominates the local area?
The dominant genre out here, I'd say, is punk. There's a lot of country out here too, and I myself have been trying to bring in more extreme music because I do promotion on the side, and I got a couple of shows coming out. Just pulling tri-state area bands into Fort Wayne, because at one point, extreme music had a good scene out here, but it's gotten to a point now where a lot of bands don't want to come here because we had a certain politician become vice president. Oh, yeah. And yeah, he's known for very homophobic things, and a lot of bands have spoken out against that. Yeah. So, as unfortunate as it is, I want to, try to bring some of the heaviness back to Fort Wayne. It's great seeing, my buddies in, pop bands, and punk bands, and, whatever, doing what they do and enjoying it. But at the same time, we need more extreme music too, I feel.
What are some promotional techniques that you use in order to try to attract some more extreme music? Because that's a specific genre that I think would have just a specific set of fans. How do you go about promoting that?
Basically, I do it the old school way, word of mouth. I make flyers. Every connection or every interaction I have in a day, like if someone would seem genuinely interested, I bring it up. I use social media. Just every way that I possibly can, because the one thing that, I aim to do with promoting is to really get these bands exposure. It's going to be a slow starting out. It's been a few years since I've been back in this too, but I'm hoping to make a difference again. We're working with, I'm working with Dark Horse Tattoo, and together me and the owner are going to be renting out a lot that's right next to his shop there, and we're going to be turning that into a venue occasionally. It's a lot of work for what it is, but it's going to be worth it. Yeah,
you're the second. Well, you're going to be sort of a venue owner. You're the second one that we've had on. One of the first things that I asked, the first one was, how do you go with managing a venue? Because it can be a bitch in and of its own with all of the rules and regulations that you have to follow by. Have you guys looked into that stuff yet, or are you just waiting until you get it into later stages?
Well, thankfully, the landlord of the property has been really cool. So he's the one who would have to deal with all that stuff. So far, all we really need is just to clean up after it. We got lucky. So
that's awesome. So, are you going to have any distinctive features in this venue, or is it just going to be an outdoor? Or is it going to be more of an outdoors thing, or are you going to be inside?
It's an indoor venue. Oh. It's pretty spacious, lots of room, for kids to come out to shows and, beat each other up. There was a venue that was like that here in town called the Sunset Hall. It was pretty big, and that's what I'm trying to kind of bring back too, because those guys were bringing in, tons of deathcore, death metal bands, 2005, 2006, and I eventually want to get past just local acts and just regional acts and start reaching out to national acts too. Yeah. But time will tell. Depending on how well the venue does, and I just kind of have to base my decision from there.
Absolutely, and I mean we wish you all the best in that. And what specifically influenced you kind of into we kind of already asked what got you into that genre, but death metal and heavy metal, those are just distinct genres that have a lot of dark and sort of intense lyrics and themes. Is it sort of like a therapy for you to kind of have that stuff in your lyrics, or how do you use that? Because getting in that scene, it's very, very, a lot of people that I've talked to have said that it's very cathartic to have music about that stuff. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. playing a show, you know, recording vocals, even just practicing vocals, it's a great release. I mean, there's really nothing like it. You know, I got into it initially because I was just like, wow, this is chaotic as hell, and I don't understand it. And at first, I honestly wasn't really too crazy about death metal, honestly. I just thought it was a bunch of bullshit. And then, like, I really got into it, and I was like, well, I was wrong, you know. And, you know, here I am all these years later, and I'm just like, well, okay, yeah, this is one of the best releases you can get.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely, that's one thing that I like to stress as much as I can whenever I have a heavy metal or a death metal guy on, is that it's mainly just a release of emotions, and I mean it's a healthy release. They're doing it in a productive way, and it's entertaining for people. So I see no problems in it whatsoever. I actually find death metal music to be entertaining in some forms as well. But one of the big things that we like to talk about here on this show is performing live, kind of the thrill of it, the rush that you get. I mean, you write these songs, you practice them a million times, and then you finally get to unleash them on the public. What is that feeling like specifically for you?
you know, it feels like I'm in total control. I'm generally a very calm, you know, mild-mannered guy. I'm not too, you know, terribly extroverted, but, you know, put me on stage and something completely different just comes out of me, you know. I think I think a lot of it's just a release of just like passion, you know, because that's what this has become for me now. Because if you have the expectation to make money in death metal, you're doing it wrong, you know. Like, this is definitely a passion thing. And I don't want to ever lose that. This is kind of ridiculous, you know. Like, there's a lot of dudes out there who, you know, want to get signed and all that other shit. That's fine, but at the end of the day, like, don't forget why you're doing it, you know. Yeah, would it be great to have that kind of exposure? Sure, but at the end of the day, that's not why I'm here. You know, that's not why John's here. I know that for a fact, because he's doing well for himself. He doesn't need to be making death metal, you know. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, do you have any pre-show traditions or rituals? We have bands on here that say that they like to have a few shots, or they like to have a few beers, or they like to stretch. Do you have any pre-show traditions, or do you just like to wing it when you get to the venue?
You know, generally I get a meal, do my vocal warm-ups, help my drummer, and then we're good, you know. I'm not, you know, I'm not much of a crazy party animal or anything like that, you know. So try to keep my body intact too, you know, maybe some stretches. But overall, you know, just do, you know, a few vocal warm-ups, you know, get myself nice and loose, and just go for it.
One of the other questions I really love to ask is, when you're performing, does time usually seem to stand still for you, or does time usually seem to spin up, or is it a mixture?
It's like, as soon as that first song starts, it's like it was the last one, because it just, like, it goes by too fast, you know. Because, like, for me personally, I just kind of get lost, you know, in the moment, and I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it, and like I said, again, like, as soon as it starts, it feels like it stops. You know, I guess it's true what they say, time flies when you're having fun, you know, as cliche as that is, but I mean, like I said, man, there's nothing that could really beat that.
Yeah. So we have a lot of people. I also love to ask, because you see some guys that when they leave the stage, they like to kind of just be left alone and just kind of recover from throwing it all out there. Some people really like to be social. Does it? What is your usual attitude after a show? Do you like to kind of isolate yourself, or do you like to go out and be social, or do you kind of sometimes, even though you don't want to be social, you kind of have to force yourself for promotions? How does that go?
Yeah, you know, just get some water first of all. That's usually my first go-to. Then, you know, I just kind of mingle with the crowd, you know, just ask, you know, if people have what they need. You know, the last show I also promoted, so I didn't really get a chance to breathe. But generally, you know, in my experience, like, I'll go out and talk to people. You know, I'm the front man. That's kind of my job, you know. Again, like I said, I'm the loudmouth of the band. So, you know, I'll just, you know, go talk to people, you know, get to know my fans, you know, get to know the people who are there, hopefully turn them into fans.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, bullshit with people, and that's about it, really.
Absolutely. So when you're done with all the performing, when you're done with everything, do you always feel that it's worth it, or are there moments where you kind of have doubts? We love to talk about how, like, perseverance really plays a part in being a musician. Do you have those moments, and how do you push through them?
Oh, absolutely. I've had those moments more times than I can count. You know, there have been times where I've quit for years at a time, but it's just like, it's my muse, you know, like, you can't you can't walk away from it that easy. You know, it's like being a fucking addict. You know, like, and I've relapsed again, but like it's probably the best relapse you can do. You know, honestly, like for years, like I had a kid, a couple of years ago. You know, so obviously I was gonna take time off for that. You know, just for music in general, but. You know, I got back into it after he got a little bit older, and you know, I if I were to quit again, I know I'd come back, you know, within a couple of years, if that.
Has being a father changed some of your themes that you write about, or has it affected your musical style in general, or are you mainly the same as before?
Literally the same. You know, I don't really try to shelter him at all. From anything. I mean, you could ask my girlfriend, you know, you could ask his mom. Like, I just don't see a point in sheltering him from what I do, you know, from, you know, what music can be. So,
does he like your music?
From what I can tell, I remember when he was a baby, like he would do like the growls and stuff whenever you would hear the, you know, music on, and he doesn't really do it anymore. I've tried to get him to do it since, but.
How do you sort of recover too from those performances? Because with the heavy metal and that type of genre in general, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, your voice, I mean, seems like it could hurt afterwards. I know there's specific techniques that you can do to lessen it, but overall, what are some of the techniques that you use in order to help recover your voice after a grueling show?
You know, generally, like, I don't want to sound like a dick or anything, but I really don't have those issues. Because, like, again, there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. And, you know, at first I fucked up a ton. You know, at first I was always destroying my voice. And, you know, yeah, and I've been trying new techniques and stuff like that to, like, you know, do different vocal styles. And, like, I'll tear my voice up in the process, but then you figure out the right way to do it, and then all's well, you know. Yeah. My only real issue is just getting a dry mouth during a set. Yeah. Like, that's the thing that throws me off. But other than that, that's it. And, you know, like, that's why I said for that glass of water almost immediately.
All right, so now we go to our audience favorite part of the podcast, where I ask 5 questions, and these 5 questions will be added up, and we'll release them at a further date and see what our most famous answers are or popular. Now, the first question is, in the history of the entire musical world, every song that's ever been written, we'll record everything. Out of all the history of music, if you were able to choose one song that you could personally have come up with, what song would you choose and why?
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Yes.
Like, because you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't know that song, and if they don't, then don't waste your fucking time.
Exactly. That is our 3rd time that Queen song has been on, and yeah, that would be one of my top 3 for sure that I'd have on. I couldn't pick one specifically, so I'd probably just have it a 3-way tie. But for our second pick, or for our second question, if they're out of all the artists that have ever lived, dead or alive, you can pick either one. If you had a chance to perform on stage with any artist for one show, who would it be and why?
Dead or alive?
Yeah, you can choose either one.
That's a good question. Honestly, probably Jonathan Davis from Korn. Like, as weird as that might be, I've been sitting here talking about brutal death metal this entire time, but that was, that's been one of my favorite bands since I can remember. Yeah. And I've always respected the fact that they just do whatever the fuck they want. Because I've done that consistently for 20 years, and if Moist or anything else that I do lasts 20 years and, whatever, then I more than likely am taking that same route.
That's awesome. So for our third question, out of all the venues on the planet, if you could perform at any venue, where would you perform and why?
Probably CBGB's, even though it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You've had all your legends go through there.
Yeah.
And, that's, the atmosphere always seemed packed from every video you could ever see from CBGB's. I think that would be it. That or like Wacken open air or, something huge.
Yeah.
Either something really intimate and small or something really huge.
Yeah. All right, so now for our fourth, now we get down to the real nitty-gritty. What is a guilty pleasure song that you enjoy that no one else or not even maybe your other band member would guess that you enjoy?
I don't really believe in guilty pleasures, and there's a song called Stay by Taylor Swift.
Oh, yep.
And because guilty pleasures are for fucking posers, you know what I mean? like I'm a music guy. You know, I love extreme music, sure, but at the same time, like my girlfriend will put that on, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting there singing it too. I don't give a shit.
That's awesome. So I know that you don't have, but just pretend that you do. What is a guilty pleasure genre then that you enjoy?
Probably like that 2000s emo,
Yeah.
you know, or like pop punk.
Yeah.
You know, again, she'll put something like that on, and I'm singing all of it. I don't care.
That's awesome. So now this is a question that I've added on just recently that I'm going to add on. If there was one artist who you could have their entire music disappear from existence, no one would ever know that they were an artist. No, all of their songs would be wiped from everyone's memory, the popular conscious. The person wouldn't die, so they'd still be alive. But who would the artist be?
Hmm. I'd probably have to say. That's a good one too. Probably have to go with like the whole ICP thing. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's created a lot of degenerates. So
What? I mean, we could elaborate more on that because I've had a few ICP people on here. I've had some people that have opened up for them, and I am not really familiar too much with them. What when you say it's caused a lot of degenerates, what do you basically mean by that?
you know, there's just a lot of shithead kids out there that listen to you know,
Juggalos,
and
yeah.
yeah, you know, the juggalo culture, you know, in of itself, and probably anything to do with weed culture too, because I think that shit's annoying.
Mhm.
So like, just get rid of the music. You know, that anyone just talks about doing pot all the time. Like, I'm not Edge. You know, I've partied.
Mhm.
You know, I've done shit, but at the same time, like those cultures, those subcultures of people, just are annoying as fuck.
Yeah,
And that's really all it is.
that's true. So, where can people find your guys' music? Do you guys have it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify? Where can they find you?
Literally everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, you know, we're on Spotify. It's on my SoundCloud. It's on iTunes, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube. It's everywhere.
Yeah, we'll leave links for all that stuff down below. Do you have any shows upcoming that you'd like to announce?
The only one I have upcoming, you know, for my promotion is October 5th. It's going to be with Dark Horse Tattoo Parlor. Moist will not be on that one.
Okay.
The next Moist show is January 5th of next year.
January 5th. All right.
Yeah.
It's a ways back, but I'll make sure to remind people as those dates come by. And are you guys currently working on any new music, or do you have anything that you're is in the preparing stages?
Yeah, you know, we're working on our full-length album. It's coming along really nicely. Bunch of songs that we worked on before that we're making more crisp, more clear, and we're throwing in some new ones too. It's going to be a little more on the technical end of things, not so much groovy and not so much slammy as the EP was. You know, we're really going to take our time with it. You know, iron out all the kinks, and I don't know when the hell we're releasing it, but we'll talk a little more about that as it comes up.
Do you have a title already named for it, or are you waiting until it's all said and done?
We have a few that we're poking around with. We'll see. You know, we got album art being worked on right now too. It's being provided by my girlfriend again. Her name's Haley. You can find her on Instagram, haley.cook.art.
Yeah.
You know, she does a lot of great art, tattoo artist out of Fort Wayne again. And you know, like I said, she's working on our album cover, and everything's going smoothly.
Yeah.
So
what's that again? Is that Haley.art?
No, Haley.cook.art.
Haley.cook.art. Okay, yeah, I'll leave a link down.
Ailey too.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll leave a link down below for that too. That's awesome. Does she do artwork for any other bands, or is it just for you that she's doing it for?
You know, I've been trying to get her to do other bands, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, do you have any merch? Like, do you have a website for all your stuff?
We have fanny packs. They should be coming anytime. It's going to be on our Bandcamp more than likely.
That's good.
We've been talking about doing socks and shit. You know, I just kind of want to stress too, man. Like, we're not the most. We don't take ourselves super seriously. You know, like this shit's for fun. This shit's you know, for release and stuff. So you know, we kind of want people to get down with that too. And like again, people seem to. So we'll see.
That's awesome. I mean, I wish you nothing but the best, man. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap her up here?
Just keep an eye on us. We're on all those socials except for Twitter or whatever. And, we got Instagram, we're on Bandcamp, we're on Facebook. Keep an eye on us. Should be releasing some shit within, I don't know, probably the next year. Yeah. We'll see. Again, like we got that show coming up January 5th, 2019. Bring the new year in right. Got a ton of great bands on that. I just want to shout out, the Green Leaves. One of the vocalists is on one of our singles that were released not too long ago. Shout out to Hostel. Just all the great 260 bands, all the great 574 bands. Just keep an eye out, for all those guys and us too. So
that's awesome. We wish you nothing but the best. I mean, you need a promotion or anything for your new music that you got coming out, just message me on Facebook, man. I'll promote that crap out of it on here. You have any upcoming shows? Again, just let me know. I'm more than happy to. You guys, again, Moist here. I highly recommend you go and check these guys out. I'll be leaving all the links to all their stuff down below. And this is DD on the Spot. Ryan Johnson signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, thank you.